Okay, we are going to talk about creating a virtual machine with the Centos Minimal installed on it. My ultimate goal is to um, run some enterprise software, MicroStrategy in particular, and I want to create a virtual machine that I can distribute. Therefore, I don't want it everything in the world on that install. So that's why I'm going with the minimal, so that when I compress it down, it'll be a smaller file to distribute. Not that it'll be particularly small. So, I went to just Google download CentOS 7. By the way, using CentOS 7 as a stand-in for Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So CentOS is basically a team of people that went and take the source code that by license that Red Hat has to make available, and then they just take out everything that says Red Hat and puts in CentOS and re-puts it out. So it's essentially Red Hat Linux. I'm going to choose a mirror close to my home, and the the 64-bit, and we went the minimal. So I already downloaded it, but this is where I found it. The file is here. So I'm using VMware Workstation. Now that's not a free product, but they do have VMware Player. The biggest difference, other than being free, is that VMware Player can't do snapshots and restore points, which VMware Workstation can. There are other open source virtual software out there. I've been using VMware for decades, so I'm just sticking with it because I'm most familiar. So I want to go and create a new virtual machine, and I'm going to do custom, and past that. So we're going to go choose that ISO file. An ISO is simply a image that is the same as a CD or DVD. And so doing that is just like popping in a CentOS DVD into your computer. And I'm going to tell it that it's a Linux. And CentOS, again, is a Red Hat. So come up here, and I chose this version 7. Okay, and I'm just going to do this as CentOS 7 Minimal. And I'm going to locate it. I actually have an external SSD I just picked up. So I'm going to pop it in here and call this CentOS 7 Minimal. Alright. And I have a quad processor machine, so I'm going to give it up to 4. Oh, sorry. 1 processor, 4 cores. I want to leave it at 2 gig of RAM. You can change that later. Um, when I get into the MicroStrategy part, I'll want to bump it up quite a bit. But 2 gig is plenty for just installing and configuring the Linux itself. I'll start out with I'm going to go with bridge networking, so it acts like its own computer on the network. I don't have an opinion on this, so I'm just going to accept the default. I'm going to create a new because I don't have an existing virtual disk, so I'm going to create a new one. Now here's where you'll um, I don't want to how big, and then again 20 gig is more than enough for Linux itself, but I want to install things on there. Um, I'm going to stick with 20. I might have to come back and revisit that choice when it comes time to install MicroStrategy, but for now I'm going to leave it there. And I'm just going to do a single file for the disk. It's going to be a chore to move this whenever I move it, and I think this is just simpler. And I'll leave that as a default as well. So when I power on this virtual machine, it's just like a regular computer at this point. It's going to boot up. It's going to run the ISO. So it's just like you booted up a PC with a DVD in the slot. And it's going to automatic boot. So I'm going to click install. At this point, I'm just following the prompts. Here they go. Things should run fast. I'm on a pretty powerful Core i7 machine with 16 gig of RAM, and I'm running this on an SSD. Now, interesting that it went to the GUI. I was expecting this to be I'll change the time zone. I'm in Chicago. I was expecting this just to be command line driven. I guess you live and learn. Network time. It probably can't find network time at the moment, so I'll turn that off. There we go. I'm going to leave security open for the moment. Makes everything difficult if you get that going too early. But before you'd ever put this on a network, or God forbid, put it out on the open internet, you're definitely going to want to do all the hygiene, all the security hygiene you would do for any Linux install. Okay. I'm missing something here. It's asking me to. Oh, there we go. Ah, that's why. So again, there's only this virtual disk, but just like any computer install, you have to say where you want it to go. Now I can click begin installation. Alright, I'm going to set myself a root password. And I'm not going to do any, I'm going to I'm not going to say that in the video, but I'm currently writing this down so that I will document all those types of choices. And I'm going to go ahead and create a user. We're just going to call him user. Be sure to write your passwords down. I actually manage my passwords with the 1Password app on my phone and my computer. It syncs it across. It's really nice. There are others, plenty to choose from, but do yourself a favor and particularly with virtual machines, and particularly if you're just doing it for development purposes, where you use it for a while, you play, you learn whatever it is you want to learn, or demonstrate whatever it is you want to demonstrate, and then you shut it down and you don't look at it for a while. It's really easy to forget that. And while it's still doing stuff, what I will do is in my virtual machine, I'll come in and I'll create a file called info. Sorry. And in there I will do things like, um, accounts. And then I have root, and then I'll put in whatever the password is, and then my user I created, whatever that password is. Just, things you need to know outside of the virtual machine, such that whenever you come back and run it, if you had put in an IP address, you would record that here as well. And now I'm going to reboot my virtual machine. Oh, good. That's what I expected. So it did not come with the GUI, the desktop already installed. Yeah, there it is, my nice Linux. Um, if I don't even have ifconfig. So you, this is the end of this particular part of the tutorial. It's installed. Um, I'll create another one to go over the basics, what to do from here. You'll be doing a lot of installing software because we did the minimal. Um, yeah, I can't believe ifconfig itself is not. I'll have to look into that. Um, so there it is. Pretty easy to get up and running. Now I'm running right now. Oh, something else that you'll want to know is once you've clicked in your virtual machine, and you can do things like list a directory and you know, um, you your mouse and your keyboard are now inside the virtual machine, and when you want to get out of it, you hold the control and the alt down at the same time. That releases your mouse. See, now I have my mouse. I can minimize this. Um, you can also come into your virtual machine and turn it to full screen. So just like that's the only thing on your computer right now. And again, it's Control Alt that will give you your mouse back. Um, I will actually typically, once I have my Linux virtual machines up and running, will minimize them and interact with them through SSH from my desktop. So I treat them like they're a total server, rarely even getting on the console directly. And that's it for this video.